All right, hello everyone. My name is Greg, and today what I want to do is I want to go over a course I teach called the Thrift Savings Plan Made Simple with Greg Mesa. This is usually a class that I teach virtual or live face-to-face, but because many of you you live all over the country, different time zones, many of you may not be able to access this class live. So what I want to do is I want to present you that information, the exact same thing we talk about in our class. And if you do have questions, concerns, or I always look forward to this, is difference of opinion or perspective, just reach out to me, let me know what those questions are, and maybe we can make a follow-up video to answer all of them and address all the topics that are on your mind, okay? Now, who is this class for? This class is made for federal employees. I always tend to favor VA employees, but it's for people who want to understand the fundamentals of the thrift savings plan. Okay, I know some of you know a lot about one area versus another, but hopefully this brings all those things together so you have a very good, well-rounded understanding of the program in general. Okay, I will make another video to talk about a little bit more advanced things or people that maybe are in the middle of their career and it's time to maybe make some adjustments. But I want to talk about the program and as a fundamental. Now, there's three main things in this class that I want to cover. It's three, and I call it the three big decisions. The decisions that we want to cover is first is dollar amounts. How much money? How much money do you put into the TSP? How much is getting matched? Or what's the maximum amount of money you could dump in every year? Okay. The second topic, and this will be the second video, will be how do you want that money taxed? You guys get the terms of traditional and Roth and sometimes that can get confusing. So I want to talk about that, hopefully help you understand it a little bit more. And because taxes are usually the most boring or usually the most frustrating thing, I'm hoping I'm going to make the situation better for you. Now the third section, third video of this is then going to be, now that you have your money in the account and you know how you want the money to be taxed, the last thing is what investment fund to buy or what investment funds to buy. Some of you are going to have a mix. So I'm going to go over every one of those funds to hopefully give you better understanding of what each one is. So when you're dumping in tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into this fund, this C fund or I fund or S fund, you understand what you're investing your money in. Okay. From that, I'll probably shoot another video for our more intermediate class. And then I am in the development of an advanced TSP class where we talk more about not sophisticated, but more complex strategies that you can use in the beginning, in the middle, and especially at the end of your career, because that's where a lot of the advantages are. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in now, and just so we kind of understand as federal employees, when we retire, we should all look forward to at least 3 streams of income that are going to come our way, right? Social Security, which is a totally other class altogether. TSP, which is what we're covering today, our 401k plan. And then the last one is your pension, which please know these are 2 different things. And the reason why I want, one of the things I want to make clear to you, because I don't know where you come from. Some of you came from other organizations. Some of you worked in local governments like county, city governments, state, and you may have had another pension plan or maybe retired military. So I want you to know that these things are not the same. Your 401k is the plan you have the most control over, and if invested properly and over a long period of time, it's where you can make some real money in investments. Okay, so let's go with that. Now, the TSP, I hear a lot of people talk about TSPs and 401ks and all of that. Please know, let me make this clear. The thrift savings plan, think of it as a brand name. It is the thrift savings plan is the federal government's brand name for a 401k plan. That's exactly what it is. It's the largest one in the country. Okay. Now, some of the things that if you're new to investing, or maybe you're a little bit younger and you're still kind of getting a good grasp of money management, one of the things I would say is, there are some of the other accounts that you might be familiar with, savings accounts and checking accounts. They're designed to, they benefit, and they also try to cater to people who are trying to save money, and then the checking account actively use it for paying for stuff. all right? Retirement accounts like your TSP, the 401k, you're gonna notice the more you learn about it, the rules they set in place, the criteria they give you, the options they give you, they really want you to dump as much money in, invest it, and grow for retirement. So when you try to do anything other than that, it's gonna come with taxes, it's gonna come with fees. They make it very hard for you because it's not intended to be a spending account, right? At least not right now, right? You're working, right? So you're gonna notice that that's maybe some of the differences that you might already know from accounts that you have that are in savings and checking, okay? So I'm also gonna talk to you about how to put money into the TSP account. I'll log into MyPay, I'll log into my MyPay account, and I'll show you how to do that if you're not familiar with MyPay, okay? I'll talk about the match, so that's a big deal. Some of us, the only thing we know about match is 5%. 5%. Well, 5% of what? We're gonna talk about that, okay? And then finally, we'll talk about some of the options that you do have. Unlike Social Security, unlike your pension, the thrift savings plans gives you more area for making decisions that are what's right for you and your family. Now, on the opposite side, I do know some people, you've given too many options, it starts to become pretty frustrating. So we'll go over that, okay? So let's talk about money, okay? Money going in. And in here, we have 3 classifications. So if you talk to your coworkers, you are newer and they've been in the VA longer, or you've been in the VA longer and you have new people coming in and you guys talk about the TSP, you might see some inconsistencies because depending on where you were hired, there were different things that HR and payroll automatically did for you, okay? So that's why when you talk to newer people, or if you're new and you talk to people that have been in the VA longer, the conversation might sound different, and it is because it is different, all right? So for example, from the 1980s all the way up to August of 2010, if you were hired in that time, the government did automatically open a TSP account for you, but they only automatically took 1% out of your check. And when they did do that, they put it in the G fund. You had no other option, right? Once you got your account, you went in there, then you could have manipulated at the time, right? But as a new employee sitting in orientation, this is what they automatically did for you, right? So I'm hoping with some of you, especially those of you that have been investing that long, your money's still not sitting in the G fund, but that's what automatically happened. Now, for those people hired between August of 2010 to 2020, right? These are not old employees, but I always express older. They've been in the government longer. At that time, they automatically, by default, did 3% contribution out of your check and into the TSP. And unfortunately, at that time, the fund they bought was the G fund, right? Which is more of a savings fund, right? No losses, but very minuscule growth, right? And I like to say there's newer employees, everyone hired after October of 2020 till today, the new normal, the new automatic is 5%. The government will pull 5% out of your base pay, match it, and contribute to the TSP. And then they will invest it into the age-appropriate L fund. And if you don't know what an L fund is, I'll talk about that in my 3rd video. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think this is a great thing they do, right? If you are intimidated or quite frankly, you're overwhelmed in orientation and this is what happened to you, right? It does not do well for investing and growing. This is actually a very prudent option. So if you do nothing to your account, you're still making some pretty good progress. 5% plus a 5% match. And then on top of that, you're in an age-appropriate L fund. Your money is going to be working. Okay? So I think that's a good thing. But actually, you know, there's if I could pause for a second. There's a big point that I wanted to open with, right? And I think it's worth rewinding here for a second. Okay? And that's this right here. So, for the most part, the people on this, watching this video, are going to be VA employees. For the most part, medical employees, right? Veterans Health Administration employees. And for as long as I've worked with healthcare employees, there's one thing that's been pretty consistent, right? is that whether it be the medical terminology you use in the clinics, the documentation, the diagnosis, the prescription, a lot of it is based on logic, okay? So a lot of you, maybe, I don't want to assume, but I would think some of you, when you go into other aspects of your life, maybe even financial management, you might think a lot of the terminology in the finance world is based on logic and reasonable explanations, right? For example, medical terminology, a lot of it is based on Latin, based on ancient languages like Greek and all that. So, and also based on science, right? The different classifications of things. But one of the things I want to mention, and this is not a nice thing, is that the people in the world of finance, when they create names for investments or investment products or insurance products, one of the things that I need you to know is if when you read things about finance, when you are listening to someone talk about finance and investments and insurance, if it sounds confusing, if it comes across as intimidating, that's because that's what it's meant to do. Unlike in healthcare, the world of finance, people purposely make things sound confusing and intimidating. And you might ask, well, why is that? Why? Because in the world of finance, and this may sound negative, and this may, quite frankly, just not sound nice. A lot of people in the world of finance, their goal, right, whether it be brokers, advisors, or people selling products, their goal is to make your money their money, right? Whether it be in fees, commissions, and I'm not saying there's something wrong. I mean, I'm a capitalist. There's nothing wrong with earning a living, but when you purposely make things confusing, you try your best to make things intimidating. To me, it's not right. Okay, and the reason why I'm bringing that up to you is because I don't want you to think because in your world, in your profession, terminology is logical. That is logical in finance. No, because if you're confused, you're intimidated, or your head is spinning, the way they see it is now you have to hire them to run your money for you, to invest your money for you, right? And that's why I created this class, TSP Made Simple. I'm going to try my best to explain things in layman's terms because I have no invested interest in making money off of you. I'm a professional educator. I'm a federal government employee. I'm here to hopefully make you smarter so you make better decisions and you have a comfortable retirement. Okay? So I wanted to take a minute to talk about that. Right? Okay? So some of the going back to money, dollars amounts and flowing into the TSP, there's a few things to be considered, right? When you're a new employee sitting in orientation, whether you remember it or not, to establish your account, you fill out a form, TSP1 form, to open your account. Okay. One of the things I would recommend if you don't think you did or you're not sure you did is double check, make sure you added beneficiaries to your form. We want to make sure that if unfortunately something should happen to you, right, that the money you have in that account flows as seamless as possible to your loved ones, the people you want it to go to. Okay. Also, another thing you can do, and I'll talk about this later, you can certainly, if you have an old 401k, 403b, some type of retirement plan from a previous employer, you can roll it in to the TSP, okay? There's a form you do. Now, I am not gonna dive too far deep into that. The reason being is, at the time I'm shooting this video, TSP is making huge changes to their website. I don't even know if they're still using this form anymore. Right? So I want you, if you're ready to do this and this is something you want to do, you're not going to be able to lean so much on my instruction. You're going to have to go to the TSP website. There is an area there for rollovers and follow the process there. For what it was worth, this summer I helped 2 people roll 401ks over into the TSP. And what I always ask people is if you can keep me in touch as far as timelines. They told me from the time they turned the paperwork into the TSP, the money transferred from one 401k to another in about 7 business days. Once that money dropped into their account, they said on average, it was 4 days before they can now get that cash and buy different funds, right? So I wanted to mention that. Another thing is if you are a veteran retired, or maybe you just did 1 or 2 enlistments or commissions in the military, and you had a TSP account, you'll notice when you log into your civilian TSP that there's 2 different sections. One of the things you can do, and I highly encourage you to do it, is combine both accounts. Your civilian and your military combine into one. I like combining those things so you can see everything and manage it on one screen. Okay, so I kind of mentioned some of this stuff. These are the forms you use to establish your TSP account, roll over your TSP account. Now, what I'm going to show you today is when you want to add more, when you want to change how much money you're dumping into your TSP, we do that on the MyPay website. And I'll pull up MyPay and I'll show you how to do it. It's very easy. So we'll do it there. One of the things that I would encourage you, just as a tool, I use it every day, is when you're calculating between dollar amounts and percentages and all that, simply Google percentage calculator. There's a lot of good ones online. I use it all the time just to double check my math. And if you haven't found out yet, for the year 2023, okay, the dollar amounts of much of the money you put in has changed. So if you're a employee, all of us can put at least, this is the maximum amount of money we could put in our account, $22,500 a year. If you are a person who's 50 years old and older, the IRS gives you what's called a catch-up provision, meaning because you're older, you're creeping closer to retirement, they allow you to dump more into your retirement accounts to prepare for retirement, okay? So 50 years old and older, you can still put the $22,500, but with the catch-up provision, the maximum dollar amount for you is $30,000 a year. Now, I put the little asterisk here because please hear what I said, 50 years old and older. If you are turning 50 years old in 2023, you can start putting in the $30,000 max. Now, the reason why I want to pause for this is, let's say your birthday is in the middle of the year. Let's say it's September. You do not need to wait till September, your 50th birthday, to start increasing the amount of money you put for the catch-up provision. You can start putting the $30,000 in at the beginning of the year you turn 50. So if your birthday is in September and you're turning 50, you can start making that increased contribution starting January of that year. Okay? So I hope that's helpful. Okay, so if you look at this screen, there's a lot going on here, okay? But what I want you to focus on right now is this column, but especially, let's start down here. Just focus right here. I want to talk to you about the match of your TSP, right? Because until right now, the only thing you might know, probably know, is that you get matched 5%. Well, 5% of what? 5% of the money you put in? 5% of your salary? What? So the 5% is actually not 5%. It's actually 4% matched with the 1% gift. So if we start down here, you'll notice, so long as you have a TSP account open, even if you don't contribute to it, so long as you have an account open, every year the government will give you a 1% gift. Now going back to the percentage, 5%, 1% of what? It's 5% of your base pay. Okay, so it does not include locality. Now my physicians out there, it's a little bit different. If you're a physician who gets market pay, your base pay, it'll be 5% of your base pay. You have your market pay. When you combine those, it's called what was called your adjusted base pay. The TSP will match 5% of that, so it's even better. Okay, but going back to the 1%, even if you didn't contribute, the government will give you a 1% gift, right? And then after that, if you continue to put money in, the next 3%, the government will match your contributions dollar for dollar. So 3% plus 1% is a total of 4% so far. Okay. Now, if we keep putting money in, we put in another percent and another percent for a total of 5%. The next 2%, the government will match 50 cents on the dollar and then another 50 cents on the dollar. So 1% plus 3% plus 0.5% plus another 0.5% is a total of 5%. That's how you get your 5. Okay. Now, one of the things that's commonly mentioned is vesting. To be vested in a TSP, it has to be 3 years. So let's say you come work for the federal government, you contribute to the TSP, and you leave before your 3 years. What does the government take back? The government will only take back that 1%. Okay? If you stay more than 3 years, you keep the whole thing. Okay? So in this column, I would say this is most federal employees. They contribute 5%. The government matches them 5%. And that's what most people do, right? Hopefully not you. Hopefully we're going to increase the money we're putting in. All right? Now, what I want to do is move on to this column. This column is for my folks that are under 50 years old. Okay? This is the maximum column, the people that are pushing it to the end. Okay? In 2023, the maximum amount of money an employee can put in is $22,500. Right? In addition to that, the government is going to match 5% of their base pay. Okay? Or again, for my physicians, 5% of their adjusted base pay. Right? So that's them. Now, if you are 50 years old and older, I mentioned earlier, you're allowed to put up to $30,000 a year. Okay? So you put your $30,000 a year, the government matches 5% of your base pay, and that is the total amount of money going into your account. So I hope this explains the amount of money that you put in, how the match impacts it, and maybe one day I'll pull up a leave an earnings statement, pull up your LES, and I'll show you where to find that on your LES. I think that'd be another cool thing to do. Just so you can see the money flowing out, the money flowing in, and you have a good idea of actual dollar amounts. Okay, so one of the last things I want to talk about, because it concerns dollar amounts, is something that a lot of you get really excited about. It is for those of you that maximize your TSP contribution every year. A lot of you are very careful because you want to spread it out the whole year so that you make sure you get your full match. I'm sorry. So let's look in the blue up here. This person up here, let's say this is you. In 2023, you're under 50 years old. The maximum amount of money you can put in is $22,500 a year, right? And if you're pretty savvy, you know that, hey, that's the maximum I can put in every year. I have 26 pay periods a year. I'm going to do the division. 22,500 divided by 26 equals $865 every pay period. Okay? So you can evenly distribute that money and get matched every pay period. Because remember, you have to be contributing to the TSP to get matched. Right? So we want to make sure. Now, just so, just for clarity, if you did the math, it would be $865 and change. But in MyPay, when you make the changes, you got to do it in a whole dollar amount. So that's why I just went with $865. All right? So this is someone who has their act together. Okay? Now, let's look at this person down here. Right? This person, they made a mistake. Right? I think all of us maybe have made this mistake before. They looked at their 26 periods. They looked at the dollar amount. Hey, I could put $22,500 a year. And they said, forget the $865. I can put more. I'm going to put $950 in every pay period. So if you look at this person dropping $950 in every pay period, you're going to look right about here, and at about pay period 24, they run out of gas. Reason being is $950, $950, $950. By pay period 23, they can only contribute $650, and after that $650, they have hit their annual maximum. So what does that mean? That means TSP is no longer going to accept your money because you've reached your maximum for the year. They're going to put it back in your paycheck. So these last two pay periods, this is I think December, right? Pay period 25 and 26. It's not going to allow you to contribute, and therefore you're going to miss out on the employee match, right? And that's real money, 5% of your base pay. So we want to make sure we stagger it out amongst those pay periods. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is let me log into MyPay. All right, so guys, this is MyPay. I've logged into MyPay. This is my actual account. And when you want to change, going back to dollar amounts, we want to change the dollar amount we're putting in. dollar amount, or some of you maybe want to stick with percentages, we want to go all the way down here to the thrift savings plan. Click on that. It'll show us what we're currently doing, right? And so we're going to go ahead and hit edit or update. And this is where we'll make our changes. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you, right? So we have our traditional side, we have our Roth side. Up here, if you are going to allocate by dollar amount, and that's actually what I encourage you to do, you could put the dollar amount you want to contribute every pay period. Or if, let's say, you want to increase your percentage, you can increase it down here. My suggestion is if you're doing more than 5%, go ahead and convert it to dollar amounts. So I don't know what 5% of your salary is, but let's say you want to double that. I would then do the math and double it in dollar amounts, okay? Another thing I'm hoping more of you are paying attention to this, is if you make the change today, right now, it'll show you up here when it's gonna take effect. Because when you make a change in MyPay, you can make the change today, but it is not gonna impact your pay until the beginning of the next pay period. So this box up here will show you when that date is. So pay attention, all right? So after you change your dollar amount, you're gonna go ahead and hit continue, you're gonna hit submit, and then bam, you're gonna go ahead and your next pay period is gonna impact, okay? No, I'm not doing this right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and close out. But with that said, guys, I hope that this was helpful to you. And if you do have any questions, please email me. A lot of people send me a message on Teams and we set up phone calls to answer their questions. But with that being said, please pay attention. I don't know when you're watching this video, but if you are a person who wants to maximize the contribution to your 401k plan, please go on and Google the year you're in, maximum contribution limits. And because the IRS changes it just about every year, and make sure you're doing it according to that year. With that said, guys, again, my name is Greg. See you next time.